Well, I think we'll begin, and as I mentioned earlier, I hope people jump on. I sent a reminder, and so for Maya and Allison, we've had about 20 people on each call, and I think in hindsight, it's the day before a holiday weekend,
Sure.
but we have many people that ask for a recording of this, so they'll have it, and that's good stuff. So I've read this before, but we're here for She Builds. This is our fourth installment, and today we'll be talking about understanding electric in your home. And She Builds is a powerful collaboration of women learning together about how to take care of their homes and be confident and courageous. And then it comes together in projects. And our first projects are next Saturday, June 5th. We'll talk a little bit about that. But I'm going to share my screen. Well, first we have Allison, since it's a small group. We have Allison Hamill, and I'm going to introduce, am I saying your name right, Hamill? Okay. And she'll talk a little bit, but first I'd like to introduce her and thank her for her time today. Allison is born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. She is a mortgage loan officer and first started taking on home repair projects and rehab projects about 5 years ago when she bought her first home. And we can't believe this, Allison, Brian and I. Allison has 3 kids, 24, it's impossible, 21 and 16.
Yeah.
We hung up the first time we met you, and Brian's like, how old is she?
Not old enough to have a 24, 21, and 16-year-old.
Yeah, no, not at all. Right. But she loves her do-it-herself bug, and she says she got that from her mom. She was one of 8 kids, and their family didn't have the funds necessary to hire a professional when something went wrong and projects needed to be done. So she took the initiative and did that herself, and continues to do so in her own home. So welcome, Miss Allison. And we just thought we could, talk through a little bit. So we've had different women, women who, like Maya, and she'll share a little bit about her story, but just how you, what kind of improvements you've done on your own. I know you've built a couple decks, but just, what was your first project, your pearls and pitfalls, and you're still sane. So how does that all happen?
Yeah. So I guess I have painted quite a few things. Okay. That was kind of, I guess I grew up helping my mom paint the house. When it came to home ownership, I think my first big project was, and I say big because I guess in retrospect now it seems really small compared to what I've done since then, but I decided to build a coffee table. And then I had to learn how to use a saw in order to do that. So, and it was literally just wooden crates that I glued and nailed together and then glued to nailed to a plywood base. I mean, it was really simple, but it was kind of the confidence that I needed to be able to take things on. From there, I decided that I could build a kitchen table, and I was wrong. I was like, oh, this was easy. Let's build a kitchen table. And the kitchen table still exists. That was 5 years ago. The kitchen table still exists. It just is not as nice as I would like it to be. And it was a little bit of a leap from a little coffee table. But I never thought that there was anything that was hands-on that I couldn't either figure out how to do myself or have somebody teach me how to do. Because I remember when I was a kid, my mom with 8 kids in the house, and she has rheumatoid arthritis, and she was refinishing our hardwood floors on her own. So that was the example that I had. Like it never occurred to me that wasn't something that I could do. So from there, I've done a lot of woodworking and kind of mostly teaching myself. It does help that my neighbor is a carpenter, and so I go to him for tips all the time. My husband does like to do kind of hands-on stuff himself. He likes metalwork, and I've kind of taught him the woodworking side of it and how to use different tools. And he still is really terrible at measuring. He's not allowed to do that at all. But since then, we've remodeled our kitchen. That was mostly me. And last summer, my biggest project to date is I built a deck and laid a patio. So I was furloughed from work for a little while and was bored out of my mind, and it was gorgeous outside. And I was like, I need a project so I can feel like I'm being productive. And so we had this a raised flower bed in the back that was just overgrown because my uh, one talent that I do not have is a green thumb. So this flower bed was overgrown. I was like, I need to pull this out. And we had like a little brick walkway in front of it. And my first thought was, I'm just going to extend this brick patio. I couldn't find brick to match because it was super old brick street pavers. And so I said, well, what about a deck? And I priced it out. I did a lot of research. I would say 90% of what I've learned to do and the projects that I've taken on have been from YouTube. So I know some of if there are professionals on this, they may be taken aback by that or say, don't listen to YouTube. I'm not sure, but that's where I've learned how to do most of what I've done. Just doing a lot of research, a lot of reading too from like reputable sites of these are the steps that you need to take in order to build a deck. This is what you need to look into. How deep do you need to dig the footers? Things that I would never have considered if I didn't actually research it and find out like literally every step of the way, like what are the things that you need to take into consideration. So from there, I built a plan and I made a design and I worked it from every angle with measurements and everything. And how high does it need to be off the ground? How much am I going to spend on materials? And how long is this going to take? The three things that I always take into consideration when planning a project are how much time is this going to take, and do I have that amount of time, or can I spread it out over a certain couple of months or couple of weeks? How much is this going to cost, and do I have that money? And then also, does it make sense for me to do this myself, taking those other two things into consideration, or do I need to hire somebody? Do I have the skills needed to take on this project? And after all of that, I said, you know what, it's a big project. I've never done anything like this, but I'm going to do it. Literally the only thing that my husband helped with was digging the holes for the footers. Everything else was me. I did enlist my two of my boys to help with nailing and joists and things like that. But everything else I did like completely on my own. So I was really proud of that. I then laid a brick patio as well. It took me about 3 weeks to complete the deck. So from purchasing to completion. Again, I wasn't working, so I had plenty of free time. But the only training that I ever had was one summer in college. I worked for a general contractor, and he taught me how to tape and mud drywall. So I also did some staining and painting for him. So that was something like I got my hands dirty and I really enjoyed doing. And now I work 5 to 6 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day now. So I don't have a ton of time, but on my one day off a week, I'm looking for a project. So right now I'm helping my husband build a drawer system for one of for our truck. And, I have to constantly be using my hands. So, but I've never been afraid of doing that. I have had lots of projects go wrong. When doing the floors in our kitchen, I said, remodeled the floors we remodeled our kitchen, and we had linoleum floors and I couldn't stand them. They were put down in like 1956. And I wanted to do hardwood, just extend the hardwood throughout. And we decided that was going to be too expensive. And so we looked into tile. And I did not do the research that I normally do. I did not, so I didn't price it out the way that I should have. And I didn't learn enough about how to do it properly. And I realized halfway through that we had to buy tools because we didn't actually have the tools that we needed for the job. And that we didn't actually have the time that we needed to do the job. So we were having a graduation party and needed to get the house ready. And I ended up having to hire somebody to finish the job because we ran out of time. But learning from that experience was, I learned that I'm going to be more precise with my planning going forward. And I'm also going to acknowledge that there are some things that I can't do, and know that I can research it and I can try to teach myself, but overconfidence is sometimes a, a bane. And knowing what you can do and what you can't do, I think, is also important. So, and not being afraid to, if you do hire somebody to do something for you, that's totally fine, but ask them a million questions and be in their ear, and it may be irritating, but you're going to learn how to do it, and so you don't have to hire someone the next time. And that's what I've always kind of done.
So your project right now is the shelving. What do you think? Like this summer, do you have something or?
Do I have a project for the summer?
Yeah, or like what's your next big thing you think?
We have to finish the trim in the kitchen, and this big project for we're actually almost done with it. So now I need something else. So if anybody has some ideas, I was thinking about landscaping, but like I said, I don't have a green thumb. So if there's anybody who wants to teach me how to do it, I would love that. But yeah, we're building a drawer system that goes in the bed of the truck. So that's been fun. Like, I got a new router a couple of months ago that I'm really enjoying using. And that's the other thing. My husband loves it because he knows he can buy me tools for my birthdays and Christmas now. So I love to do that kind of stuff, and he gets to use them too. So it's a win-win.
How much do you think your deck cost you? Or how much do you think you saved?
How much did I tell my husband it was going to cost, or how much did it really cost? I think I had estimated that it was going to be about $1,200, and I think it ended up costing about 15. So I wasn't too far off.
I mean, and you probably saved thousands.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I said, my neighbor is a carpenter, and so when I put together my plans for this deck, I went to him and I said, "Steve, this is what I think I want to do." And he was like, "You're going to do that?" And I was like, "Excuse me, sir." And I was like, "Yeah, heck yeah, I'm going to do it." So he was like, "Show me what you're going to do." I drew it out for him and everything, and I was like, "These are the steps I'm going to take. Does this sound right?" And it's always so nice to be able to have somebody to bounce those ideas off of, whether it's a neighbor, whether it's somebody at the local hardware store, whether it's a group like this, where you've got network connections with different professionals. Bouncing ideas off of somebody who really knows what they're doing is always super helpful. He taught me this past weekend how to use a table saw, because apparently I've been doing it wrong for years. um, but yeah, I ran it by him, and he was like, this is what you need to learn how to do before you do all that. And he was like, that probably would have cost you $4,000 to $5,000 if you would have hired somebody.
Right.
So, and now he's actually building, he has deck envy, he calls it. So now he's building a deck. In a couple weeks, he's going to get it started. So I told him I would give him a hand. He said, I don't need to help him. I was like, look at this as an apprenticeship. I want to learn from the master. So.
Right. And you can do all sorts of things. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And if you're bored either the 12th or the 5th, come volunteer.
I would love to. Hey, if I have those days off, like I said, I work a lot of Saturdays now, but if I'm able to get those days off, I certainly will come down and join you guys.
That's awesome. Anybody have any questions? When the professional came in, were you embarrassed, or you're lucky you found someone for the tile in a quick time.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend him.
Yeah.
But yeah, my mother-in-law found somebody that she knew, their father did tile, and so we were lucky. And was I embarrassed? No. And I guess the idea of like being a woman who kind of takes on projects like this is that it's a double-edged sword how much we're underestimated, right? Like you might walk into a hardware store and people are like, is somebody going to help you with that? And you're like, leave me, like, are you kidding me right now? so like that can be offensive, and I get fired up about it, but at the same time, when you have to hire someone, they come in and they are like, yeah, of course you can't do it, and so you don't have to be embarrassed about it. So I guess being underestimated has its pros and cons sometimes.
I would feel good. You should be proud. So good for you. So
Thank you.
any other questions or anything? All right. Well, let's go. Let me share my screen. Let me share my screen. Hold on a second. Thank you, Allison, for doing that. I know you're busy with all the housing market, right?
It is nuts. I was actually on a call until about 10 to 2, and I was like, I got to wrap this up because I need to be in the Zoom meeting. So
Well,
I
I'm
was
glad.
able to get away, but I probably actually do have to get back here in about 10 minutes.
Well, I'm glad you took the time, and there you are with your son. Is this
Oh,
one?
look at that. That's the youngest.
Oh, and he helped you.
He did. Yeah.
Well,
Girl.
I'm grateful for your time, and I hope you can volunteer some time with us. That would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys.
You. All right. Our next speaker is Maya Hoyt. And thank you, Maya, for jumping on. I know you don't know us. Maya's in Canada. Isn't that crazy that it's so hard to find a female electrician? So we're grateful for you. But so Maya is a second-year electrical engineering technician, industrial co-op student.
It's a long title.
Yeah, that's all right though.
Multitasking.
Studying in Ontario, Canada. 5 months ago, she was done co-op working for an electrical company which specialized in commercial electrical projects such as churches and cannabis shops. So isn't that interesting? So up in Cleveland or up in Canada, it's a little more free, maybe cannabis shops. So we don't have those in Ohio just yet.
Oh, we have them in like every plaza basically now. Like it became legal last year. So now they've just been like popping up everywhere. So it's a lot of electrical work being done.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So Maya was first, I'm going to let you share your story, if you don't mind, like how you became interested in the trades, and it's sort of a cool little story there. So, but she loves being in the electrical trade and continues other women to pursue opportunities. So I'll turn it over to you to just maybe share how you happened upon.
Yeah. So in high school, I was a part of this computer building program where we never built a single computer. What we did was like we fixed different electrical problems with different tools and all this stuff for the woodworking class. Like all the guys would just like mess up all this stuff, and we ended up fixing it, and that's when I partly realized my love with working with my hands. But fast forward to like grade 12, my parents like, hey, what do you want to become? I'm like, I don't know. I just want to do something with my hands. So then I went to this career fair at the college that I'm attending right now. And I walked down like this trades aisle, and I was talking to these teachers, and I felt really inspired by one of these two of the teachers, sorry. One of them was a guy named Buddy. And I was like, man, I love the name Buddy. So great. He had like good vibes coming off him, and he was very insightful, and he really showed his passion of teaching the trades and like his specific trade. So I was like, man, I really want to study under him and in his trade. And I met another person. I was like, man, I really like him too. So I applied to both the programs. I got in for electrical, and I was talking to the teachers around like my second semester, end of first semester. And I was like, hey guys, I haven't met a guy named Buddy. And they're like, oh, no, he's not a part of electrical. So I kind of just like fell into electrical by accident because I thought that like, one of those teachers that I really loved and felt inspired by, I thought that he was teaching it. But it turns out, I just found out literally yesterday that he doesn't teach plumbing. He actually teaches HVAC.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was doing another conference because I'm also a Weston Family Scholar. So that means that I represent my school, and we go around and teach young kids about the trades and trying to inspire high school students and then elementary students to pursue the trades. What I do primarily is I speak to young women about the trades. And I just try and tell them that there are trades, and that there's so many trades out there. Because when I was younger, like even in elementary school, nobody told me about the trades, and everyone's just like, what do you want to become? What do you want to become? But you need to know that there are other things besides doctors, nurses. Oh, you see what your parents are doing. We're just trying to educate students and even adults. We even gave a speech to this
Right.
to like different um older women, because they're like in their like late 60s, really 70s kind of thing, about the trades. And some had switched careers into like second careers, and switched into, one was becoming a plumber, a carpenter, and then someone was doing something with welding. Yeah, so basically what I do is like I typically give speeches with this scholarship, and we just go around to local schools and different associations. Yeah. But that's basically how I got into the trades. That went on like a long rant on how I got into the trades. Yeah, and I am a pre-apprentice right now, and I'm loving it. And then in a few months I get to go in and be level 2 apprentice.
And I just think that it's great you're talking to young people, because I think this program may evolve into some component of that, because I think um, I was just amazed at how hard it was to find, somebody like yourself that's comfortable sharing your story and really knowing what you're doing. So I thank you again.
Yeah, no problem.
Anybody have any questions for Maya and how she got started?
Hi, Maya. Nice to meet you. This is Heather from Cleveland, Ohio. So really enjoy your story. So you said you were in the computer program and you went to the job fair and you talked to the gentleman, Buddy, and you got interested in electrical. But what gave you confidence that you said, okay, I can do this? Like, what do you tell the young girls?
To be completely honest with you, I had barely any confidence. My parents were there basically holding my hand, telling me everything was okay. And I was just there like, and I was a really shy kid too. So I was one of those people who'd probably just be like little stunned bunny, just staring at you while you're like giving the speech to them about why I should like join their program. Um, but I started getting confidence when my family started backing me up. So my family started saying, yeah, I can see you doing this. Yes, Maya, you can do this. It was really my family. It was just their support. Like they supported me so much that I'm trying to support other people too. So like that's how I got my confidence. And this was my family telling me that I could.
That's pretty cool. So now that they support you, so do your mom and dad let you do more than change light bulbs? Are you changing out sockets? What are you doing?
So my grandpa, we call him Grumpy. He's my mom's dad. He lives very close and has always lived very close. He's the handyman in our family. If we have any problems, he always comes over and helps us with them. And I remember I always used to like be beside him, just like looking over his shoulder, see like what's going on. And then my dad started doing a little bit more, and like I'd help out my dad if we needed to build anything, I'd build it with him. So like my family has always walked with me to like help me do stuff. So I've always been doing stuff around the house. Um, like I helped my dad. We built the back deck too. Um, just like I try and do things on my car too. So it's just slowly been me doing more and more in the trades. I believe that answered your question, but I'm not too sure.
Yeah, it lets me know that you're a tradeswoman. So good luck on your career, and hopefully you'll keep in touch with us, and we wish you much success.
Thanks, Heather. Does anyone else have any questions? I'm honestly open to any questions. Well, a lot of younger kids ask me like, and even older people, even teens or other people, they ask me about like my fears of the trades, what I've seen in my experiences. Feel free to ask me anything because I'm open to all questions.
Do you find like what's a big challenge being a woman? I'm sure I might know what I think it is, but yeah, I mean, can you share any things that you've had to overcome?
Yeah, so my first day, it felt like my employer was trying to feel me out to see how if I'd survive. So my first day was trench digging for electrical, and my employer, it was the hottest day, and I had to dig this stupid, like super long, super deep trench, and it was like with me and like some dude who's like muscle on muscle kind of thing, just like lifting dirt out of this trench left, right, and center. And I was just like this, I felt like I just didn't compare to him because he's just like cranking it out, and there's me just like, this is so heavy, this is so much. But I tried to help, like holding my own, and that was just, I think they saw that, and then they started to like accept me more when they showed that like I'm not as strong, but I will do and give 110%. So I was just like, one of those things I had to overcome was like, I know that I'm not as muscular as you, and I probably never will be muscle on muscle on muscle, but like I will try my best, and I'll show you that I am committed to getting this done. So that was just one of the hurdles. The guys saying, "Hey, I want," and like they'll test you to see how good you are if you're committed.
I have a question.
Yep.
So what are you enjoying the most about your pre-apprentice program?
I just enjoy wiring up things. When you finish a project and you can drive by and say, hey, I built that, or hey, I helped out with that. And even just like the smaller things, like when I went over to someone's house recently and one of their lights was flickering. So like I fixed the problem. And then like when I turned on the light switch and the light turned on and stayed on, and then just seeing like the joy on the homeowner being like, thank you so much. And then just like it gives you a good feeling to know that I did this and someone appreciates what you did too.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting is that, when I thought of an electrician, I would think of somebody that comes into your home, but there's more to it. I mean, you're outside digging electrical wires, and I just don't often think of that. So it's a good reminder.
Yeah, my grumpy, he did like metalworking. He was like a metal worker, metallurgist, something like that, and he did all those different things. But what he told me before I signed up to be an electrician, he's like, you need to be an electrician. You carry around barely any tools. It's the cleanest trade out there. Super like convenient. All I have to do is make sure something turns on and you wire it up. And then like getting into electrical, I'm like, grumpy, like it's a little bit more work than that, man. Like I come home and I'm just like sweating out of places I didn't know sweat. I'm just like dirt's everywhere under my fingernails. I smell like foot. I'm just like, it's hard work and I look dirty. I'm so just covered in it everywhere. One day I moved this container and like some mice poop fell on my hard hat. And I was just like, he said it was gonna be a clean trade.
That's good, a clean trade. All right, well, we'll let you share a little bit of your expertise with us. So thanks for sharing your story. Isn't she a breath of fresh air? So I'm glad we connected. And this is an interesting thing. I really struggled finding women, and Instagram was a great resource for us. So Mai's got an Instagram page, which maybe at the end you can share or put it in the chat. And so did Linda last week, our plumber. So it's just there's a whole network of you strong women out there. So okay, so let's see if I can get this to go to the next slide, and it's not letting me. Oh. So our goal today is to understand the basics in your home, and also when to bring in the pros, because truth be told, we very early on found a female electrician in Willoughby, and she said, I'm too nervous to do this. And I don't want to be liable for anything. But I think that there's a lot that you can understand, and knowing when to, call in the pros and understanding your electrical panel are really basic things that I think everybody could learn. So, all right, Maya, it's all you.
So my family was really big into DIYing. So like Allison said, we watched a lot of YouTube videos before doing anything. So I believe what a DIYer can do is they can switch out plugs. They can assess to see if something's wrong. Um, yeah, so I like show you guys how to do a little bit of different things that you can do at home in the further slides. But first, I'm gonna talk about what a circuit breaker is and like when you know it trips. So typically, when your power goes out somewhere, that's the first thing that I check. So I showed like some pictures of the breaker here. The one on the left there is a single pole breaker, so that means there's only one. And then the one on the right is a double pole breaker, so there's two, and like there's a little piece adjoining them. So that's typically for hot tubs or stoves. Sometimes people have them for their, oh, what was it? Sometimes people have them for their dryers, but that's typically not common right now. Um, and when it goes into the middle position, so right now it's in the on position. So there's an on and then there's an off, but there's the middle. The middle is when it's tripped. So you can't just turn it back on after it's tripped. You have to turn it completely off and then back on. Most people find that when it's in the middle position, they always try just turning it on, but it won't. So you have to go into the off and then back into the on. That's just like the fail safe. So like when something happens, it goes in the middle and says, hey, you have to turn it off, then on, so you know that something's wrong. It's not just it turns off and it looks like all other breakers. So it tells you which breaker tripped. Um, and then understanding your electrical panel. So typically all the plugs, if you see that something's wrong with one of the outlets in your house, and if you think that a breaker is tripped, go to a 15 amp breaker. The 15 amp should be in white letters on the little knob on the, I don't know if I can, I don't know if, I don't think I can point, but it's on the breaker. If you look closely, there'll be numbers. And it just says 1 5, so it's 15. Typically it's a 15 amp breaker, so you just go off, on, and then check to see if anything has changed. If it hasn't, then try another breaker. And if you've gone through all the breakers, then what I'd say is then is probably when you should call in an electrician. And sometimes there might be a 20 amp breaker too, because that would be something like your microwave. I want to switch to the next slide. So there's something called a GFCI, which is ground fault circuit interrupter. So these, you typically find them in your washroom. You'll find them outside, probably close to like a back door or something. These are just to make sure that you're safe when you're around water. So um, say I'm like washing my hands in my sink, or I just hopped out of the shower and I want to blow dry my hair, but my hands are wet. So my wet hands are plugging in my blow dryer, and then the breaker, or not the breaker, sorry, the plug turns off. And like my blow dryer won't turn on. I'm wondering what the heck happened. Like all I did was just plug it in. But what this does is it turns off the plug and it breaks that connection of electricity so that you don't get shocked with your wet hands trying to plug in some electrical sort like something into electrical outlet. So what you have to do is just dry your hands and press and unplug everything, press the reset and then test button. If it doesn't reset, then you have to go down to your breaker and turn it off and on again. If it does, then you're good. You just need to make sure your wet hands don't touch it again. And these don't need to be checked regularly, but it is recommended to just test it once a month. That just gets like the corrosion off the wires because your washroom is humid. So like the wires, since they're metal, they start to just like corrode a little bit. It's nothing too concerning, but what it says on the back of each plug to like test it once a month. My family, we test like once a year, and we're fine. So you could easily just test it once a year. If I want to go to the next slide. So even in my short career, I've found that it's kind of hard to know how to change the light bulbs in your lights. So a DIYer can definitely change light bulbs or light fixtures. So I put the one light in the top right. We're gonna go top right and then down and to the left. So the top right one, there's a little piece sticking out the bottom, little gold piece. So what you do is you use one hand,
Hi, it's Alice with AUI. How are you?
use one hand,
Good. A little soggy today.
the glass plate there. You put your hand up and you hold it, and then use your other hand and you untwist that gold knob there, and then that should come loose. And then the glass shade should come down after that, and your light bulbs will be exposed then. So just switch out the light bulbs and then hold back up that glass shade and then screw that gold bulb back on. I found that I'd never seen a light like that before when I was doing some residential stuff. And I went to my dream and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? The light below it is like a LED light. So typically for this one, what I do, this one has little LED. They're not light bulbs, they're like little small little lights. So for this one, it expires, I think it's something between like 5 and 7 years. So you just have to take out the light and put in a new light fixture. Unless you want to spend probably more money than getting a new light bulb and getting some new ballast is what it's called, where you just replace the light component of the light. Well, one beside that, it's the same thing as the other light. You have to hold that glass plate with one hand and use your other hand to twist down that little black knob there. We have one of these in our house, so I thought that I just pop that in there. And the one beside it, you can only see 2 clips, but there's a third clip. And what it does is 2 of them are stationary, so they don't move. But the third one, what you have to do is like you pull it out, and then the rest of the light shade like comes out from there. I just thought I'd just give you guys a little tutorial on how to do this because I found that it was really helpful. And for the pot light, typically what you do is this is the trim of the pot light. What you do is like you grab the trim from the outside edge and then you just pull it down. Sometimes it takes a little bit of pressure, but most of the time it takes a lot. So you have to like really pull it down. And then from there, you can look at the back. And then sometimes it has a little connection where the light bulb connects. So you have to like undo a little clip or something like that. But most of the time, you just have to like unscrew the little light bulb there. Does anyone have any questions about these light fixtures or anything?
I wanted to make a comment that one time an electrician said to me, I wouldn't believe how many times people call him and it's just replacing the light bulb.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, one of my friends that I met through this program, the electrical program, she said that she'd never changed a light bulb until she got into our program. So I just thought that I'd put this in here to show you guys how to get to these light bulbs and these lights. So I brought a few demos. I'm just gonna switch to my phone super quick.
Maya, would it help if I like stopped sharing the screen? I think I should stop sharing. All right, so then people can focus on you. Maya, we can't hear you. Maya, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I just switched to my other audio. Could you spotlight me on my phone by chance?
We can hear you now. Can people see your screen?
Yeah, it's my voice through my phone. It's my voice through my computer, but I'm trying to show it with my phone. Can you see my phone over here though?
Yes, I can see your hand. Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
This is what it's gonna look like in your wall if you need to replace a plug. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take this off. You're gonna have to unscrew your cover plate, which is gonna be attached either here, or if you have a GFCI, this is what it looks like. There's gonna be a screw of the little hole here and one there. So we need a flat head to take that off. What we're gonna do is just unscrew this. I just screwed it on just a little bit, so I didn't forget to mention that. And then you're typically gonna have 3 wires in the box. You have a white wire, copper, and then a black wire. So the white wire is gonna go on this side, which is the long side of the plug. So you see a little long slot. It's typically like the silver screw here. And then on the other side, there's gonna be a copper or a darker looking screw. It's just supposed to help you to remember what wire goes where. So think darker, think black wire, lighter, think white wire, and you just have to attach them underneath the screw, and then you tighten down the screw. And then same with this one. Some of the plugs don't have this, but this one that I picked up did. It has this little green screw here. And what you do is you attach this bare copper wire to the green screw. And it also goes in the back of your box. So it goes in, I don't know if you can see it, but way back there, it's attached underneath that screw. And this is just it's called bonding. Basically what it does is if there's any kind of live wire, this brings it to the ground, goes back to your panel, and it goes to outside, literally a ground plate in the dirt. It's just to help with electrical shock and everything. So that's what that one looks like. I also brought a switch. This is just a different box because I didn't have another one, but it has your switches. So it's gonna look like this. There's gonna be 2 screws here, one at the bottom. I'm just gonna answer that question. So you turn off the power before doing any of this, so that you don't get shocked. You'd never do any of this live, just because only trained professionals would do that. Most of the time, we're not supposed to do it anyhow with the power on. But some tradesmen do it though. So this one is for a light. As you can see, there's a light switch here. So light switches, they need 1 black wire for power coming from your panel, and it needs 1 black wire for your light. I found that it doesn't matter typically which side you put which wire, just because this switch, it makes the electrical connection and then it breaks it. So basically just think of like a nice, like a line, and then like a little up little switch. So to get power to light, it has to be closed. So that would be off, and then this would be on because it makes the connection. But your wires, you will have some white wires coming in because you'll always have 3 wires from each, like your little set here will have 3 wires. So you'll have a black, white, and then a copper. And you have to keep all of them inside this box. So the white one, for this switch, you don't need it. So what I did is I just added, I don't think I can bring it out anymore. I just added a little barrette there. I connected the 2 because you need to make sure you do this or else your light won't work properly. So you connect the 2. 1 wire comes from the panel and 1 wire comes from the light. So you just connect them here. And then I also, at the back, you can see like a little green screw back there. I put both the copper wires underneath that screw, or you can put 1 copper wire underneath that screw or the other screw at the bottom. Let me know if I'm going too fast or if you want to see something again, just because I'm very passionate, so I just go very quickly. So let me know if you want to see anything again. But this one, I have another one, which is a GFCI. most people have the hardest problem replacing this one, just because there is a right way and a wrong way for everything, but this one's just more convoluted. The normal plug is more forgiving. This one is not. So it says on the back, I don't know if you can see it, but it says line here. And at the bottom where this tape is, that says load. So line means that it needs to, power needs to be coming from these wires, and then the load would be it going to another device. If you hook up, this is how you can see if you hooked it up wrong or not. If you hooked it up to the load side, either this plug, only this bottom piece would turn on. No, if you hooked it up to the load side, you wouldn't be getting any power on this one, but you would on another plug. So the line is just so that you attach power to this and it supplies power to the plug. If you attach it to the load, it supplies power to another plug. Let me know if you can clear that up a little bit more. But again, here, it's a little light screw and it goes to the light wire, and then a dark screw goes to the dark wire. And then there's a ground here, which also needs to have a bare copper. For this one, you typically there's a little clamp here. Right here's a little clamp underneath the screw, so you don't have to bend the wire. Most times people wrap the wire like in this one. They wrap it around the screw so that it doesn't jiggle or wiggle or anything, but that's for a normal plug. For the GFCI, typically you just keep the wire straight, strip a little bit of it, and then put it underneath here. And then most commonly, if your GFCI isn't working, you press the reset button. And then after doing that, you press the test. And most of the time, the plug does start to work again. And then I don't think there's any more slides after that.
You know, I just had a quick question.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you could go back to the one that had the blue cap, like the middle one you did.
Yep. So this one.
So if we could see it. So what's inside that blue cap? Is the blue cap waterproof? Like, or is that?
So the blue cap, it's called a Moret, and what it does is it caps off the wires so that nothing live can touch
Right.
them. So this is what it looks like underneath the cap. I don't know if you can see that.
No, you got to get a little bit. You can't see it.
Does that like, there you go. So it's just the two wires and they're just twisted together. So like
Twist them and then put that cap on.
yeah, so you twist them clockwise, and then you put the cap on, clockwise too. Because if you twist them clockwise and then put the cap on counterclockwise, then you're undoing the connection that you made. That's one of the most common mistakes that are made.
So I did that one time, and that inside that blue cap was like this weird jelly-like stuff that came out. What was that?
Oh, it's okay. Sometimes did the wires look different in shape or color or anything?
No. Well, they were, yeah, no, I don't think so. I was just trying to replace the caps and I was surprised at all the gook inside, and I thought, I don't know. I just didn't know what that was for.
Sometimes where I've seen it typically is where you have houses used to be made of aluminum wire was run inside it, but now we use mainly copper just because it's, from my opinion, it's safer. Some articles agree with me, but typically it's known to be safer and just more effective. It's a better conductor. And so sometimes people put aluminum and copper together, and they used to put this gel on top, and then they used to put a Moret on top of that. So I was thinking it could be that. It could just be because some moisture got in there, or someone had something, they ate something and then just touched your wire or something like that. There's that too. depending on where it was, I found that lots of outside lights, there's lots of like different creatures made nests and stuff. So it could have been something like that if it was an outside light.
Wasn't outside, like, that's interesting. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I took apart this light once for a buddy of mine to do their outside lights on their house to just replace those front lights, and I had something fly out at me, and a little spider had a little nest in the back and everything. I just switched my brother's light at his house, and I found a peanut. Um, I guess the chipmunks or something rather dropped a peanut in his light, and when I was taking off the box, his peanut fell down. Yeah,
It's interesting.
I don't know. Could just be something like that. I also had someone ask, um, how do you know you won't get shocked? So you turn off the power. Um, so if you are, I check the power, but sometimes people don't have testers. So what I'd recommend is what I do sometimes at houses when I'm trying to figure out which breaker my plug or my light is attached to. Typically, this only works for plugs. But what I do is I take a radio along with me and I turn it on to full blast. I plug it in, and then you can hear it any floor on the house. Typically, if it's the right size, so I turn up to full volume, and then I run downstairs. Typically, it's either in your basement or in your garage is where I found them primarily. And then I just flick off a breaker. I listen. If the radio's still going, then I try another breaker. And then once I hear it turn off, that means that there's no power there. So that's what I like to do. But then I double check it with my pen tester, which I bring along. And I just hold it up to it or close to it, and it tells me it beeps if there's power. But for your house, I just recommend plugging in like a fan or light. Radio works the best just because you can hear it from a far distance. A fan or light, you actually have to like run up the stairs, and I'm not that fit. Yeah. And someone asked, what's the best way to turn off the power to electrical work? Always turn off the breaker. Breaker saves lives. When to call the pros show shocks. One of my buddies, he was turning on one of his light switches and he just got shocked. So his family's been doing this for months now, but like they just be like, okay, so I gotta like make sure I grab something and like poke the light switch. But really, you should just call in someone to check on that. Don't risk getting shocked too many times because electricity you can't see, so don't know how it'll affect you later. So call a pro if you're turning on a light switch and you get shocked. But sometimes, so jumping down to like sparks, sometimes you do see sparks. So like I was wiring up a plug once, and there's a little spark when I plug something in, but a little spark is to be expected just because it still works. It's fine. But if you see like a big spark, then you should definitely call someone. Burnt smell, typically it smells like fish is burning wires or like melting plastic around the wires. So if you smell that, call someone in immediately. Try and figure out what breaker it is and turn it off if you can. Yeah, but definitely call someone in. That means that one of your connections on like your plugs or your switches. So typically it's this wire here. The dark screw black wire has come loose and it's moving around, and it's just creating some arcing and sparking, a little bit of heat, and then it starts smoking. So typically that's what it is. So I just recommend either calling someone in or basically just calling someone in because you don't want to deal with that yourself, just in case it's something more than that. Smoking outlet. So I put a little picture in there. So I actually have seen this a lot. I definitely call in a professional to switch out the plug and assess what the problem is. As I talked about sparks a little bit, little sparks in like once, that's okay. If it keeps happening continually, call someone. Flickering lights. I actually just went to someone's house recently to fix some flickering lights. calling someone because you could think you fixed it, but then could have made it worse. Yeah, and typically it's just the same wire. It's like this black wire here. What I had to deal with the other day was it was nicked a few times. So after a few years, this is like a house from 1950 or 60, something like that. And the light had been there since the day the house was built, and the plastic coating was starting to go. So it started crumbling. So I had to replace the light, but it was flickering because like the wire here would touch the side of the box, and then the light would just be like, oh my goodness, or the break would be like, what's going on? Like there's not as much power going through, and the light would just be like, I'm not getting sufficient power because it's going into the box. That's like typically what it is for flickering lights. I definitely have someone come in and assess to make sure everything's okay. And I think after that, it'd just be questions, I believe.
When I just wanted to say that, I know somebody in our community who there was a house fire at like 5 o'clock on a Thursday because there was those electrical panels or surge protectors, and a wire was showing and it was bent. And so, really could have a bad consequence if something's not done appropriately or, wearing down with age. So
if your light's flickering, it's been happening. If it flickers just once, it's okay. But if it continually is flickering and it's continually just acting up, definitely get someone in there to assess it and make sure that no bare wires are exposed, because that could lead to future problems, like you said, like a house burning down. Anyone else have any last questions?
thank you so much, Maya.
Yeah, no problem.
Really wonderful. We'll have you come down because we want to do this in person next year. We'll have you come to Ohio.
Yeah, and then I'll actually let you guys hold some of these demos instead of me just being like, hey, just take my word for it. This color, this wire is actually like this. I actually did like bend this. It's not just super glued on here.
We'll make sure you come when it's 90 degrees and humid.
Yeah. I was like, and this is how you do this?
Like 32 Celsius. Anyway, okay. So just a reminder, please sign up if you haven't already to volunteer. We've got our projects coming up. We're excited about it. I drove to work today and thought, I hope today isn't, this isn't, going to happen June 5th or 12th. So. All right, thank you guys again. Maya, you're wonderful. Thank you very much. Oh, and next week we have, sorry about that, we have working with contractors. We have Heather Baines, who is going to share her story and how she got started owning her own construction company, and Chrissy Myers, who is the president and CEO of AUI Insurance, one of our major sponsor of this program, AUI. And Claire Wades will talk about working with contractors, pearls and pitfalls, working with contractors. So looking forward to seeing everybody next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Have a happy holiday, everybody.
Oh, you too.
Bye.
See you next week, Heather. Bye-bye now.
Bye.